Hello and welcome to Q Sports. I'm Umudu Gajaga. Thank you very much for joining us. Tonight is World Cup exclusive. We're talking about the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Teams have started descending on the land. Qatar, well, with all the criticisms that have been surrounding their human rights record, but they're going to host the World Cup. I don't think there is anything that is going to stop that, except, oh, may God forbid something big happens from here against the next 7 days. And we're counting the days now. It's about 6 days to go. And the first game, it's Qatar taking on Ecuador. And it's the same group that has Senegal, our neighbors. Netherlands, you have Group B, England, Iran, USA, Wales. And Group C, you have Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. So we can give you the list of groups. Joining me in the studio, so much excited and passionate about World Cup. He watched several of them. Adedaran, welcome.
It's a pleasure, and I've been watching the World Cup properly since 1966. I've seen everyone since then.
Yeah.
So
and 66 is when England last won it.
When England won it. The 1962 one, I wouldn't say I watched it because we saw highlights of it in those days. I was in Sierra Leone and they had Pathé News and they did like a kind of summary of it. So we saw it, and of course we fell in love with the Brazilians, which included Pelé, Garrincha and others. Didi, Vava, Jalma Santos. Great team, great team. Yeah.
Qatar is finally here.
Yeah.
6 days to go. It's almost certainly going to be held there, and we're looking forward to the first game.
We are looking forward to the first game, and I'm glad you paused there because some people are not. And you mentioned the controversy in that some people, in fact, one of the women's, England women's footballers said she will not watch because she disapproves of their human rights records, and she also disapproves about their views about homosexuality. And so she said because of that she will not be watching, and she said it's the first World Cup since she became a teenager or adult that she will not be watching. Pardon me.
Yes, talking about the World Cup, we look at the groups, quite exciting. All these countries, big name ones, you have others who have been doing quite well in Africa, in the World Cup rather. African teams, the last World Cup was disappointing.
It was extremely disappointing, and you know, it was disappointing because we went into it with some hopes that some of the teams were really playing quite well. And what's interesting about Africa this time is that you've got a kind of North African and West Africa divide. So Morocco, Tunisia from North Africa, and then you've got Ghana and Senegal from West Africa, and that's it.
That's it.
The rest
and
of
Cameroon.
Africa,
and Cameroon is
Cameroon
Central
from
Africa.
Central Africa.
Ah, okay.
Central Africa. Central
Always.
Africa.
They look like to be in West Africa.
Central
I don't know how
Central Africa.
that geographical location is drawn up.
Yeah.
So quite interesting in the case of Africa.
So Morocco, Tunisia, good teams. Senegal, of course, African champions, and we're looking forward. Cameroon, they've been there, time and time again, but this time, I'm not sure. I mean, their friendly games have not been that impressive. Having said that, it was the same in 1990 when they had a shocking sort of friendly set of games leading up to that 1990. In fact, I think they lost all their friendlies.
In fact, in the Africa Cup of Nations that year, they were knocked out in the group stage.
In the group stage, yeah. And everybody thought, why are they going to Italy to embarrass us? And of course, they did anything but embarrass us. At the time, that was the best any African team had actually done in the World Cup. So maybe they're doing the same again this time.
The build up to the World Cup, there are lots of things we've been talking about concerning the league matches going on in Europe, especially. They're almost in the mid of the season. Yeah. And you have players getting injured in the last minute. Ghana, their first and second goalkeeper out of the World Cup.
They're out of the World Cup. And, you know, this is the thing that has upset. Because really, in the world game, the European leagues tend to dominate in terms of setting the agenda. And so even with Qatar getting it, and then it being played at this time of the year, has been unfavorable to them. The only ones who are going to benefit are the likes of Germany, who normally have a winter break. So for them, this is like they would be having this break anyway. But for the rest of Europe, you know, England, France, Italy. Oh, Italy aren't there, of course. Spain. This is the thing. And in fact, mentioning Italy, of course, that's probably the biggest team that are not there of all, you know, multiple winners of the World Cup, and yet they didn't qualify.
quite interesting. If you look at the African sides, the North Africans, they've not been quite doing well in the previous tournaments. Algeria got to the round of 16 in 2014.
That's right.
With that huge performance. Even they played Germany, almost sucked Germany.
That's right.
And eventually Germany ended up winning the match.
That's right.
Aside from that, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria hasn't been that at quite the level of where West African teams are, I would say, quarterfinals.
No, it's not. And that's been a kind of turnaround in recent years, because for many years, and in fact, if you go to England, really, I read some of the English press and I get quite upset, because they still seem to write off the North African teams as if they are still the giants of African football. And yet recent history has told us that they're not.
Absolutely
It's
not.
been Central and West Africa. So, you know, they need to kind of get up to speed. But these teams, all of them quite nicely balanced. It's a mixture of youth and experience. All the teams, all the African teams. And so that's something that really, really we should be looking forward to. And
something to be proud of, all being coached by African coaches?
For the first time ever.
For the first time ever.
And let's hope, and that's one of the reasons why I want them to do well, because you and I know that we go back, way back in discussions here. I've always felt that if we don't give qualified African coaches a chance, then they will never get to the stage where, you know, all these African teams in years past, they would pull up some European coach who can't get a job in Europe.
In Europe, yes, definitely.
And yet they'd be national coach. You know, I remember a guy called McKinstry, who was Sierra Leone coach, and then he was Rwanda coach, and now I think he's in Uganda somewhere. You know, he's always getting jobs in Africa. He can't get a job even if he paid to get one in Europe. And yet, you know, guys like that always get jobs in Africa. And so fantastic that all the teams are being coached by African coaches. The only slight thing I would have is that Cameroon, I'll go back to them. I'm a bit worried about them because Rigobert Song, I've not been convinced that he has the kind of tactical whatever. He's a much loved and legendary player. But that doesn't always mean that it's going to translate into being a good coach.
It does not always reflect on the pitch, and as far as coaching is concerned, we've seen quite a lot of former players.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not somebody who, you know, learned coaching up to the highest level in terms of badges and, you know, practically as well. Yes. Because the only side he has coached, I think, was the Cameroon under 20 team. And so,
that's right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got some of his badges, but as you say, we know many legendary players who went on to be rubbish managers and coaches. So just because you're a good player doesn't mean that you know how to teach. It's like people who have a PhD. And they lecture in the university, and people come out of their lectures and say, "Oh, he's got it all up there, but he doesn't know how to impart it to the students." It's the same with coaches. You know, you have coaches who were fantastic players, you know, and yet I saw something the other day which made me laugh, because Steven Gerrard has just been sacked as Aston Villa manager because he wasn't any good. And somebody was saying that they should sack Jurgen Klopp and bring him in as Liverpool manager. I thought that was laughable. But this, you know, fans sometimes get swayed, and I think that's what's happening in Cameroon. They've kind of got swayed by Rigobert Song's legendary status, sacked the coach and brought him in. It will be interesting to see how they get on. I hope they do well.
And is Samuel Eto'o a good thing for Cameroonian football? Some praise him for being that leadership qualities, making sure that, you know, Cameroon goes for quality. He even threatens to kind of take certain decisions. Kind of that dictatorship is shut off, at least as per reports coming from Cameroon.
Reports seem to indicate he's going to be a dictator.
Yeah.
And he can be a dictator because he's a legendary player. In Cameroonian history.
And they said the fans agree with him.
Well, because they love him. But let me tell you, if they come bottom of their group and they don't get a single point in this World Cup, those same fans will turn against him.
Against him, yes.
Football fans are like that. They don't care how legendary your status is. If the team doesn't do well and they blame you. Maybe he'll push the blame onto the coach and say, not me. Yeah. But, you know, he fought to get Rigobert Song into that, you know, his former teammate, of course, in the national team. It will be interesting to see, not interesting, I know the fans will turn against him if they don't do well, for sure.
The games that I'm mostly looking forward to is if you would like a sort of a revenge game between Ghana and Uruguay. They're going to meet again after the incident that happened in the quarterfinals. We all remember 2010, South Africa.
Honestly, I can't believe that they've been drawn again in the same group. And if I were the coach of Ghana, I would be telling to them, Ado, I'll be saying to them, guys, forget about what happened in South Africa. Treat this game as a standalone.
As that standard.
Don't go thinking of revenge, but they're human beings.
Yeah.
And that was a bitter way to go out of the World Cup. A really nasty way. Their own fault, of course. They should have killed the game off, and yet it ended up going to penalties, and they were kicked out. Really sad. So, yeah.
Then Group H, that's where you have Portugal, of course, Uruguay and South Korea. Well, in this Portugal team, another controversy. Maybe we don't want to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo.
He's a whole program by himself.
A whole program of himself. He's going to lead the Portugal side. Ghana, fairly any chance in this particular group?
Ghana, again, are one of those sides who, as I said, they have a mixture of youth and experience. A lot of the guys there have got multiple caps for Ghana, but you've just mentioned about their goalkeepers being injured and out, and that's those are very important positions. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how they replace them, because it's a specialist position. It's not like out on the pitch, like the other day, Manchester United playing Fulham because of suspension. Malacia, who would normally play on the left, played on the right.
On the right.
You can get away with that on the pitch. You can't get away with that in goal.
No.
You have to have a specialist goalkeeper in goal.
Yeah.
And so I'm really worried. But Walcott is out, plays for Charlton. In England, and he got injured, broke his finger, I think, over the weekend, and so he's out. So, I'm a bit worried for them. But on the pitch, what's good is that it's a united team, in the sense that they're all working for each other, and that's important because in years past there had been divisions in the Ghana team, certainly going way back to the 90s. I saw it with my own eyes, where you had Antonio Boa leading one set and then Abedi Pele leading another set. In fact, they went to play Sierra Leone and they wouldn't even eat together, the two sets of players who were behind each player in the same hotel.
Yeah, kind of having a camp in the squad.
Within the squad you had cliques where these lot followed, and I was quite amazed. And some of it was to do with Boa didn't think that Abedi Pele's brother should be in the team and so on. But I actually told them to their face. I said, this is quite disappointing, because I went there and I wanted them all to take a group picture, and they didn't. They wouldn't do it. I had to take one picture with the Boa group and another with the Abedi Pele group, and I have the pictures to prove it.
My God.
It's shocking. But this time they're very united, and they've been together for a long time. So I think that will be, so they know each other's game and they know how they all play. So that's good.
In Group G, the Samba boys, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and you have Cameroon.
I mean, Serbia, Switzerland, good teams. Brazil, a very good team. And as I say, Cameroon, they've been misfiring, but I hope they shock me, disappoint me, in the sense that I've been following their friendly matches and they've not been that impressive. Maybe they're saving it all for the World Cup. I hope that is the case. And of course, if they beat the likes of Brazil, hey, that would be fantastic.
Fantastic news, yeah, definitely.
Be wonderful.
And Brazil, looking at upfront, the kind of options that they have.
They can drop Roberto Firmino.
Firmino, yeah.
And not even blink, Gabriel Jesus, Richarlison, Anthony at Manchester United. I mean, they've got quite a good kind of midfield and forward line. Casemiro is there. Fred, as he's called in Brazil, not Fred. Mm-hmm. Fred of Man United. He's there in midfield. They've got a really good team. And one of the things that's interesting about all these teams is the number of players who play in the English Premier League. For Brazil, for Argentina, you name it. I mean, this is quite interesting.
Very interesting indeed. Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia in Group F. Yeah. Quite another one.
Belgium, Croatia, two very tough teams. If Morocco get anything out of that, and Canada too, although Davis, Canada's star player, is injured. I mean, imagine this guy, very talented. At Bayern Munich, he plays as a right back.
The right back, yeah.
For Canada, he's their centre forward. and he scores all their goals. I mean, amazing. I don't know of any other player.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
of any other player who has that kind of diversity and is as good in both those positions. But he got injured over the weekend, and they're not sure yet whether it's going to be serious enough to keep him out of the World Cup, but they're really sweating on it because he is their star man. And that would be a tragedy.
Absolutely.
Because right now, Canada have got a very good team.
Yeah, Canada, good team. Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan in Group E.
I think, most people traditionally wouldn't look past Germany. Japan, their recent results have not been that fantastic. Costa Rica, every World Cup, they throw up a shock. They either draw or beat somebody you don't expect them to beat. So, when they've qualified. So it will be interesting to see what happens this time. Very unpredictable team. And again, a lot of the players have been there 5, 6, 7 years, some even longer than that, Costa Rica. So again, very much a unit, and they know each other's style of play, and that always helps.
In Group D, the world champions, France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia.
No Paul Pogba for France, as we know. No Anthony Martial, who is in good form for Man United.
And no N'Golo Kante as well. The midfielder who mesmerizes, every
Fantastic.
midfield, his ball recoveries and control and passes.
Midfielder. And it's only when players like that are not there that you realize their worth, their value. They're the kind of players who they don't get the accolades of Kylian Mbappe or Olivier Giroud, but when he's not there, he's not there, because there's a gap there. It's not. I don't mean a physical gap, just the things he does. That it's like Liverpool are flying with Sadio Mane. Yes, he was a forward, but boy, did he track back? Did he harass people? They don't have anybody doing that right now, Liverpool, and they're missing it. So N'Golo Kante, big miss.
Big miss. Then in Group C, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. Argentina has been tipped as one of the teams,
which I find quite interesting, because for me, Argentina have had better teams than this current one that have not won it. But I think people are feeling that there's a kind of leveling off of the teams. So they think that Brazil, Argentina, France, England, they're all kind of there or thereabouts in terms of their level. And so they're tipping Messi to go out on a high. For me, I think it's kind of wishful thinking. They want him to grab hold of the World Cup in the way that Maradona did in 1986. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. If it did, I would be surprised. But I've seen a lot of people tipping them because they think it's going to be his last World Cup and probably his last big championship. He probably won't play in another Copa America either. But fantastic.
Because if it is quality, I think there are other squads who had more strength in depth in their teams than
this one,
than this Argentina team.
When even in South Africa and even in Russia.
Russia, yeah.
I thought their team was better than it is now, and he was there in both of those teams. So we wait and see. But I think there's a kind of romantic element that they want the guy who many people consider to be the greatest, ever. For me, the greatest player ever is Maradona. Nobody, in my opinion, will be better than Maradona, and not even Messi. Yes. Messi, for me, has been lucky in that he's always been in a very good team. Yes, he's good. I don't doubt it. I don't take anything away from him. But Maradona has been in good or ordinary teams, and yet he has made those teams excel. Messi has never done that. Never done that. He's at Paris Saint-Germain in a league that's almost a one-team league. At Barcelona, they were virtually the best team in the world, not just because of him, but because of everybody else in the team. So for me, he's not really done it in the way that Maradona did. Look when Maradona went to Napoli. My God, he did a miracle there, which is why he's deified.
Won them the European Cup and will get them the Italian Scudetto. And then,
I mean, come on.
Definitely.
Please. Yeah.
And, in Group B, where you have the three lions, England, Iran, USA, and Wales. And where you have England, Wales, and USA.
USA, England, both countries that have very, what one might say, fractured political relations with Iran.
Iran, yes.
And then that's going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, Iran will want to beat both of those. I suspect they won't, because USA, yes, we didn't traditionally see it as a good or great football nation, but they are now, soccer nation, they are now. England have got a decent team. Can they do it? Again, they'll probably be among the sort of 5-6 favourites for most people, and rightly so. Wales, I expect, and they probably make me eat my words, but I think they'll come bottom of that group. Iran have got a decent team, actually. Iran have got a pretty decent team, but it's a tough group. And again, as I said, because of all the kind of political elements to it, USA and Iran, England, Iran, there's no love lost between those countries politically. That gives an extra spice to the games. So it will be very interesting to see what England, if you're a better team than another team, you're a better team than them. And England right now have got a pretty decent team.
And looking at the World Cup, in terms of the schedule of the matches, we've seen matches which would be, of course, in the mid-afternoon here. Matches would be, let's say, late evening, 7 p.m. and the likes. Not quite bad as compared to Japan, Korea 2002, when we literally had to wake up sometimes 4 a.m. That's Gambia time. That might be maybe during the day somewhere around the world, but it's quite very inconvenient.
Not bad for us.
Yeah, not bad for us.
Some of the arrangements have been to accommodate European schedules in terms of broadcast. But also they've got these kind of hyper air-conditioned stadia where they say that, when you're sitting in them, it's like you're sitting in an air-conditioned car because all the seats are fully air-conditioned. And so you're not even going to notice. But that's fine for the spectators. What about the players who might be playing in several degrees of heat? So I expect there'll be lots of drinks breaks. But really and truly, this World Cup should never have happened in Qatar. It's too late to turn back now, but it should never have been.
They got it because of the petrodollars?
Without a doubt. A lot of suspicion about why a country that had never previously qualified, that doesn't have much of a football tradition, either in terms of qualification for anything or in terms of anything else. Having said that, they shocked everybody recently by becoming Asian champions, beating the likes of Iran, China, Japan, Korea to become Asian champions. So, maybe they're turning a corner. But before that, I mean, I'm talking about quite recently. But before that, they had no tradition, football-wise, to speak of really. And as a national team, they've only been playing football since 1970. So it's not that long ago. That football, became a kind of, that they formed a national team. So they're new to it, but it's too late now. They've got it. Get on with it, and let's see.
And so the focus be mainly on the pitch. That's what teams are doing, the players, and and forget about the whole political bit of it.
Listen,
FIFA, human rights record and things like that.
10 days ago, FIFA issued this press release, and it was to all football federations: concentrate on the football. Do it on the pitch and don't get into politics. And I guess that's what will happen. And footballers are they're athletes, they're competitors. When the whistle goes, you forget about politics. You want to beat the team that's in front of you, and that's the end of it. You don't care about everything else. Otherwise, you wouldn't go. 1978, Johan Cruyff, best player in the world. He didn't go to Argentina. And probably if he had gone, Holland probably would have won the 78 World Cup because he did not agree with the military junta in Argentina. And he said, I'm not going, and he didn't go. I mean, it was a big shock. I mean, can you imagine something like that happening in the day of social media, like somebody like Kylian Mbappe or Neymar, because that's the kind of status he had, and he did not go. World Cup still went on. It was a brilliant festival of football, and of course, Argentina on home soil won, and of course, they beat Holland famously in the final.
Well, World Cup has been quite a very interesting football competition. Everyone almost love it. Even those who do not have their countries qualified in the competition.
I hear people say all the time.
Yeah.
They say the only football I watch is the World Cup. Yeah.
They said 95% of the tickets have been sold out at the moment.
Which is quite astonishing. And in countries like England, I think they've sold all their allocation, which tells you about the level of expectation from England's fans. They really think their team can do well. But they think that every World Cup, I have to be fair, so that's not a surprise. They love their football.
Bring it home again, maybe they're still confident coming home.
Football will come home one day. It might not be this year.
We're looking forward to the World Cup. Quite very interesting competition, and Qatar hosting it. Lots of criticism surrounding that, but now, you know what? It's going to be there. And next week, we'll give you updates as to how the first game went between Qatar and Ecuador. Thank you very much, Adedarame.
A pleasure as always.
That's it for Q Sports. Thank you very much, and join us next week as we talk to you about some of the first results in the World Cup. Have a good night.